Welcome to the Center Mid Philosopher. This episode is brought to you by Augustus Royale Fashion. Life's not black and white, it's gray, and gray is beautiful. Check out the brand below in the link. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Center Mid Philosopher. Have a very special guest with us today, Rob Lovejoy, Greensboro, Canterbury Cougar, Page High School, UNC Tar Heel legend, one of the best that's ever come through, made it all the way, got drafted to the MLS, Houston Dynamo, a true hero of all of ours. Rob, thank you profusely so much for joining.
Man, that's quite an introduction. I'm flattered to be here. Thanks, Matt, for all that you're doing, and the soccer connection is just awesome to make. And I know your kids go to Canterbury, so happy to make that connection as well. And I have to say, you have the perfect voice for it.
Yeah, I know. If it took me 42 years to do something with it, I don't know if it's but thank you. No, thank you so much. It's good for something. I've got the worst singing voice on the planet, but I guess I can talk. And I do too much of it sometimes, so just tell me to shut my yapper if I get going. Yeah, man, again, it's just such a pleasure to have you on, and you just had such an incredible impact on our community, and your jersey's hanging in the rafters at Canterbury, and obviously, we both played at Page, and we were second in the nation when I was there. I played with Eddie Robinson and tons of these guys, and I was all conference, all state. And I didn't even get to see the field. I was one of only two sophomores to ever even make varsity. So that's how good we were. And then finally got to play when I was a junior. But hey, man, we're gonna get to your background and your story and everything about Rob Lovejoy and soccer. But want to just get to some hot topics, some housekeeping. There's been a couple things that have happened in the world of soccer here this week. And right off the top, there's a guy, I think his name is Meppy. No, it's Lionel Messi just joined Inter Miami. Probably the biggest news to ever happen to the MLS. Literally the GOAT of soccer has spurned Al Hilal, and I don't want to say spurned, but said, you know what, no more Barcelona for me. He's joined. I'd love to just get your thoughts on this as a former MLS player. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm as excited as one could get about anything in the MLS, 1 being none. Where would you rank your excitement on this?
100.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's great for the sport of soccer. I think it's great for this country. And I mean, he is, in my opinion, the best player to ever play the game. And so I'm flattered that he, made that decision. I was a little bit surprised given, some of the numbers that were being thrown around from the Saudi Arabian League and elsewhere. Obviously the personal connection he has to Barcelona, but to land, the best player to ever play the game, I think that's just going to be a great catalyst for the sport in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll talk about Messi versus Ronaldo later, and I love Ronaldo, but man, and Messi is, I agree, he might quite possibly be the best player that's ever played, but he just went up about 100 notches in my book, because how much money does a man need? I know that. I was actually at one point in time when it was 500 million, that was larger than the GDP of 8 nations in the country, one of which is Micronesia for any Zoolander fans out there. But then they upped it to 1.6 billion across 3 years, and he still said, you know what? No, I'm going. And I mean, holy smokes, that's cool. I mean, he just, if he wanted American fans, boy, did he just get them. And I'm just really honored. Not that I have any way to be honored, but I'm just really pumped for American soccer that he chose that. And to your point about the going back to Barcelona, that would have been cool. But like, I was a huge fan of Ronaldo going back to Man United, and that was a great first couple 20 games or so. But then it went bad, and it went kind of really bad. I don't think it soured his legacy too much, but it didn't really help it. So I think he made the wise choice of just saying, you know what, I'm Barcelona. I'm the best that's ever played at Barcelona. I'm just gonna leave that there. But I'm curious, like for you as a former MLS player, what would you say? Like, what's the consensus of current players with that? Because like I know there's just massive income disparity, and one of the things we talk about is folks like you and Grant Porter and Eddie Robinson and Logan Paws, who are heroes of mine and former teammates and guys I played with. Eddie Robinson was talking about how he had to live with a Filipino family on Craigslist just even live. Back when the salary is, do you think the vast majority of players are going to embrace this, or are they kind of going, geez, it'd be nice if we could all get a $50,000 raise?
And looking at Messi in a vacuum, I would pay Messi to come. I would forego my salary. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, there has been a disparity in income in the MLS for a long time, and I was fortunate to join later in the process.
Yeah.
Guys like Eddie Robinson and Brad Davis and DeMarcus Beasley, Landon Donovan, all those names kind of set the path for that gap to be narrowed.
Yeah.
When I was playing, it still was pretty wide. But honestly, I was never in it for the money. Just personally, it was a goal that I had ever since I was a young kid to play professional soccer, and I didn't really care about the wage gap. Some guys who want to make a career out of it, it becomes a little bit more of an issue. But back to the question, I would have paid Messi to be able to play on the same team as him.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be unreal. I think the Messi effect, as we were all talking about, like in 10 minutes, Inter Milan gained 1 million followers, and in less than 24 hours, they gained like 2.5 million. And obviously, we all know the season tickets have gone from like $78 to like 5,000 or something ridiculous. And everyone in the league is going to benefit from this. But some of the stuff that I've been really impressed with, and we'll see if it happens, but like you're starting to hear names like Di Maria and Busquets and Suarez and people like that being thrown around, that they may join them in Inter Miami. And like, holy smoke. That's basically Barcelona. And all those guys can still ball. I think, some of the pushback you get from people, the few that do say like, this is just a retirement league. Well, if the effect that he has is that he gets players like Di Maria I've never seen him play better, frankly. Mm-hmm. He's in his prime. Like the World Cup and his play for Juventus lately has been the best I've ever seen. And if they can get him, that is a top 10, 15 player in the world, pretty much in their prime. So we'll see what happens with all that.
Yeah, and also I think it's easy to overlook, but there is a lot of young foreign talent coming into the league, and that's been a trend for a long time now. And these are really highly skilled, high pedigree players that the league is attracting, and I think that's reflected in the quality of play that has increased over time, in my opinion, in the MLS. So I think it's good for soccer in this country. I do think it has an impact on the college game as it exists, and for players coming out of college, young professionals like me. But long term, I'm encouraged by what I've seen.
Yeah, you mentioned an influx of young talent from all over the world. I think we are seeing that, marrying the big names with the Bales and the Messi's the biggest of all, Chiellini, but then you got guys like Almeida, and you've got who's the the guy.
Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
there are some incredible players. And Insigne came over for a bit to Toronto FC. I mean, I think you are starting to see that bridge a little bit, and maybe this will maybe like some like really legit players in their prime might be like, you know what, I want to go hang out in Miami with Messi
Yeah.
and like live the good life. And so I guess time will tell.
I kind of look at it like this, guys. From a global perspective, when Beckham came over, the MLS took a big jump kind of internationally. I'm hoping, as a U.S. soccer fan and someone who lives in the United States, that Messi coming over is like that next rendition of that happening. And just to kind of wrap up the Messi saga to Inter Miami, he's getting a percentage of the shirt sales. Apple is going to pay him a percentage of the subscriptions, and it looks like he's kind of straight line to MLS ownership of a team when he's all said and done. So anything to get him over, right?
Anything he wants. I mean, that's like, do that in anything. I mean, I'm all for that. And they were talking about the Beckham got the ability to buy a team for $25 million, and he has now turned that $25 million team into a $1 billion team through the Messi acquisition. And if Messi can own a team, who knows what he can do? So I'm like, hey man, give these people everything they need and want. And I mean, it's totally worth it.
And the timing of it couldn't be more perfect. Right before the World Cup that will be hosted in this country. So hopefully it is a catalyst for the continued growth of the sport in the U.S.
Yeah, we got the infrastructure now. We got young players coming up through academies. We got these incredible soccer-specific stadiums. So, like, we are totally primed for this to just explode. Changing tack just a little bit. I'm always curious, just like, how much soccer do you watch, and what do you watch? Like, if given the choice between EPL, Champions League, River versus Boca, Real Madrid versus Barcelona, like, what do you watch? Like, what's kind of your favorite flavor?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit I don't watch as much as I used to. But that being said, Premier League on Saturday, Sunday morning, the time is just perfect.
Yep.
You might wake up, have a cup of coffee, and turn on a Leeds United game, and that's kind of what I like to do now. I was actually in Houston earlier this week, and on my way back, the Canadian Champions Cup was going on. Vancouver and Toronto, I think, were playing each other. And so I watched that game. It was like the first MLS game I'd watched from beginning to end in, a year or two. But I try to keep up with the MLS as much as I can, just because there are, a couple former teammates, friends who are still playing, but most of my generation is kind of began to phase out.
Yeah. No, and that's where I'm going with it, is I love asking people, because our age group, well, I mean, I've got quite a bit of age on you, but when I was coming along, you were lucky to get any game whenever you could. And I happened to just Man City, like, people end up being big fans of certain clubs just on some particular game that had a major impact on them when they were little kids, and it was just whatever was available. Whereas now, you can almost watch anything and everything, which is awesome. Yeah. And I'm just fascinated on what people watch. And I also hope that people watch MLS too. It's not an either or, it's a yes and. Like, yeah, of course I watch EPL, I watch Champions League, I watch everything, but I watch MLS as well. And I hope people will continue to watch it, because it's getting really, really, really good. And I think that our kids' generation will grow up and be like, no, like, they have teams that they grew up rooting for, which I think is wonderful. Another one I just wanted to ask you about, Benzema just retired from Real Madrid. Ibrahimovic just finally retired. Just curious, who do you think had the better career? Now, I know Benzema's not fully done, but who would you say had a better career, Benzema or Ibrahimovic?
That's a tough one, because they're both very different players. Ibrahimovic is kind of the guy that you have to build a team around, and he's going to be the alpha male in whatever locker room he's in. But he has those moments of brilliance that nobody else could pull off. And I'll never forget that bicycle he scored with Sweden from like 40 yards out. I mean, and then the first MLS goal he ever had, I was watching live, and I was just blown away. Like he's the only person that can pull off those moments. But back to your question, I would say Benzema probably had the better career just holistically. I think he had the unique ability to get better with time. And I don't know how old he is now, but he was in great form like last year in Champions League play, like scoring goals, top goal scorer for Real Madrid. And, you could put him in any environment, and I know that he would succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like Zlatan, refers to himself in the third person. He, he's kind of like branded himself as like the third to Messi and Ronaldo, but I don't even think he's in the. I don't even know if I'd put him in. I mean, he's a great player, but I don't even know if I'd put him in the top 30 players of all time. And I would certainly not put Benzema necessarily in there. But Benzema is he's certainly a top 10 Real Madrid player of all time, which is incredible. He's the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, which is incredible. And he's like maybe the second or third leading scorer of all time for Real Madrid behind Ronaldo, maybe Raul, which is pretty incredible. So I'd have to agree with you. I think Benzema gets it. Did you by any chance get to catch any of the US U20 World Cup games?
I haven't, just because of the time difference, but I've been tracking, the articles, and obviously the loss to Uruguay was
a bummer,
just disappointing. But I think the team played pretty well based on what I read in the highlights that I watched. So yeah, it's something that, I just struggle to find time for now, but when it's on, I'll watch it if I'm free.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to watch all of it, but I did catch some, and I'm always interested kind of who are the up and comers. I don't know, that Cade Cowell is a beast. Diego Luna was a beast. Josh Widner played great. Of course, the Uruguay game, he really had he had an own goal, and then he kind of missed a tackle that led to the other goal. And then Owen Wolff played great. Are there any players that are exciting to you right now, young U.S. Players, MLS or full U.S. national team players? Is there anyone that is kind of exciting to you?
Yeah, someone I've had my eye on who played in the World Cup, but I think is still young and has a great career ahead of him is Brendan Aronson.
Oh, yeah.
I just love his style of play. I think he's coachable. I think he's a team player. I think he plays hard. He's gritty, and his technical ability is just unbelievably off the charts. And so I'm really excited to track his success over time. And I think he's a free agent, or there's a clause or something in his contract that allows him to be a free agent after the relegation this year. So I'm curious to see where he ends up, but somebody who I think very highly of as a player.
Yeah, I love Aronson. My sons and I watch him all the time, and it's too bad Leeds USA is sort of no longer. And actually, not a day goes by that Jesse Marsch isn't linked with some different club. But the one I saw literally last night was Olympiacos, actually. And it was saying that if he goes there, he was going to bring Aronson with him, which would be kind of cool. I mean, very different. But, I mean, you kind of hate for him to leave the EPL. But I don't know. It could be cool. I mean, he could be a real star there, maybe. But, no, I love Aronson. And his little brother is a beast.
Yeah. I totally agree.
He was supposed to be on that U20 World Cup team, but his club didn't release him because they needed him so bad, which is a positive. And some have said he's certainly one of, but perhaps maybe even the best player in that U20 pool, which is really cool. What a talented family. So I want to get to you and your background a little bit more because I'm just fascinated. So you came up through the academy system, but you didn't play for Fusion, did you?
No, so the academy system was really nascent in its early stage when I was coming up. All these academies were being formed all over the place. And so I was on one of the last club teams, traditional club teams, that was actually coached by Elmar Bolowich because his son was my age. And he put together a little team in Chapel Hill. And so we had players from all over the state coming in for training every day, and home games were in Raleigh. So it was a bit of a drive for me being from Greensboro, but that was my high school team. I grew up in the Greensboro soccer club system.
Nice.
Prior to that.
Wow. Well, how about that? I didn't even know that. So you and I share a exact same background. So I came up, it used to be Greensboro Bucks. I don't know if you ever heard that. That's going old school.
Yeah.
There's Bucks Red and Bucks Blue, and those games were like Paige Grimsley-esque rivalries. It was awesome. And I then it became Greensboro Soccer Club, actually. And I actually did the same thing as you. I played for Carolina United with Elmar was our coach.
Okay.
And Logan was one of my teammates. I don't know if you heard the names Matt Crawford, Ryan Levitan, Michael Gell, list goes on and on and on. But they all played at Carolina, and they were sick.
Yep.
And we were really, 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 really good. And it was unbelievable to play with those guys. And that's how Logan was on later today. And he and I played club together for Elmar, as a matter of fact. So
Yeah.
how about that? Same exact thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Elmar was just such a fantastic coach and really primed me to be the best player that I could be. You know, had that wisdom about him. I felt like if he wasn't a soccer coach, he would be, I don't know what he would be, but he would be really good at it. So
Yeah.
just fortunate that that's the career that he chose, because, you know, he's just such a wise, smart man.
Yeah. Warm and fuzzy, he was not. However, I've never played better. He was just so tactically perfect. Like, I remember he had us as a team, just a well-oiled machine. Like, I've never been coached like that, where it was like, I remember we had a real aggressive kind of defense approach where we really rushed the D. I don't know if you guys did that, but I'd never never been coached by anyone that had ever done that before. And that team we were on was sick. So
we were pretty good too. And I remember the pressing mentality. But what it did was create room for creativity on the offensive end. And he really had a good way of finding that balance of being a tactician, but also allowing enough room for creativity to kind of bring out the best in his players.
Yeah, no, he was a truly brilliant coach. It was just an honor to be able to play alongside a lot of those guys and even start with them, which was just crazy. And a lot of those guys, as you know, went on to become MLS legends. And I'm lucky to have said I played right there with them. And then from there you went to Chapel Hill. And then you guys, you won the state championship at Page, right? And then you had an incredible run at Chapel Hill. And then, so tell me about your time in the MLS. You were at the Dynamo, right?
Yeah. So I wasn't sure that I was going to play professionally. When I was in school, I didn't know that was an option, because I actually walked on kind of to the team. Elmar gave me a preferred spot and kind of got me through the admissions process. But I wasn't on a material scholarship, at least initially. And I was fortunate to walk into a team that was ripe full of veterans, guys who played MLS, were some of the best players I've ever played with. Jalil Anababa, Michael Farfan, Stephen McCarthy, just all great guys. And, the opportunity to learn from them and to be thrown in that environment and kind of have to sink or swim was just perfect for me. And so my freshman year, we actually had a bunch of injuries, and I was planning to redshirt from day one. It was never, an option that I was going to play. And that was kind of mutually understood between Elmar and I. And we had a bunch of injuries about midway through the season. I was playing pretty well in practice, and Elmar, came to me afterwards and was like, "Hey, if I need you next game, we're playing South Carolina at home. It's like, do you mind if I throw you in?" And I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah." And he was like, "You know what this means though, because we're halfway through the season, you're burning a red shirt."
Sure.
And I was like, "I don't care, just put me in."
Yeah.
And so he put me in, and it was 0-0. Of course, we had another injury in the second half, so decided to sub me in, and we were playing South Carolina at home. And I remember the center back got the ball and I blocked it with when he was trying to cross it back in the box, and immediately found myself on a breakaway with the goalie and scored the goal to go up 1-0. And so after that, I just really never looked back. I became a starter in 2011. We won the national championship that year. And so all of a sudden I'm on like all these professional scouts radar. And so it was really just kind of a dream and happenstance for me to fall into this situation. So I was drafted in the second round by the Houston Dynamo. Didn't go to the draft because I didn't think I was going to be drafted. And so it was a huge shock. I remember watching it with my mom and my best friend, Glenn Long, who played at Carolina with me. Also
Great player. I watched him too. Yeah.
And so, spent 2 seasons with the Dynamo. It was awesome. Would do it all over again. I think I played in like 20 or 25 games. Had some injury issues, which was part of the reason why I decided to stop when I did, but also just had some, career aspirations beyond the sport of soccer. And so I just felt like it was time for me to step away and kind of pursue what I was looking to do at the time.
Well, you did it, man. You made it all the way. And I watched you a lot. And for the listeners and viewers that never had the pleasure of watching Rob Lovejoy, one of the fastest players I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because, again, I played with Michael Gell and Logan Pauls and Matt Crawford and Grant Porter. Did Grant coach you at all when you were there, or not quite yet?
No, Grant was our assistant coach. His first year was 2011 when we won a national championship. So Grant is I can't say enough good things about that guy. He bleeds Carolina blue, loves the state of North Carolina, and he's just a fantastic coach and better human being. So.
Yeah, so we had him on. I don't know if you watched that episode, but I told you when I met you I joked I literally had to mark Grant Porter from 4th grade to 12th grade. We both played center mid, and I was good, but not Grant Porter good. I mean, him and Logan were on the national team, and every time I saw him, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to just get embarrassed. And he was probably the best I ever played against. Eddie was the best I ever had a chance to share the field with. Best teammate I ever had was probably Logan. And so, I was, it was just cool that I played with all those guys, and they even remember who I am, which I wasn't, I'm sure they barely do, but at least I was there. So Grant's great player. So I'm also, I've asked everyone this too, and again, we're all Tar Heels. I love Berhalter. I watched him as a player. You should go watch him at Carolina. He was a great player, and I thought he did a fantastic job in the World Cup. And he's a Tar Heel, so we love him. But who do you think should be the next U.S. men's coach?
That's a tough one because there's just so many names being thrown around right now. I like Greg a lot. I know Greg personally. He was a coach at Columbus when I was drafted. So got to know him then and through the Carolina Network. And I think he did a fantastic job in the World Cup, and, hate all the off the field stuff that happened afterwards. But I think there is something to be said for continuity. And especially now in this point in time where we are in this country with respect to soccer, because last World Cup was really, or maybe it was just before that, was really the first or most meaningful generational shift that we experienced with guys like Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, DeMarcus Beasley kind of phasing out and new guys coming in. And I thought Greg just did a fantastic job of putting together a team that included, some American born and MLS players with all the European talent that we have come to know and love. And so, I believe in his system. I think he's a brilliant tactician. And I'd love to see him get another shot, to be honest. But, it's not up to me, obviously. I know there's been some recent hires at the front office of the U.S. Soccer Federation. Yep. Cindy Parlow, I think, does a great job. Mm-hmm. I know her husband well, John Cohn, and just think highly of them. So I know that I trust the system that it'll work out the way it's supposed to. I also think highly of Jesse Marsh. He was coach at New York Red Bull when I was playing. And I know they've spoken about bringing in some foreign names like Patrick Vieira or Thierry Henry.
Yep.
Even I think I read about, but I would personally prefer to keep an American coach who can understand our culture and understand our players. Because I think we tried that a little bit with Jurgen Klinsmann, and there's some mixed reviews on that. And he couldn't have been a better coach. Talk about high pedigree that couldn't have worked out any better. But that's just my personal opinion, that bringing in someone like Greg or Jesse would be ideal.
You literally, Zach will attest, that's almost literally been my talking point for every episode. So like Berhalter, I thought did a fantastic job. I thought we played really, really well. I'm not even going to go into the Reyna stuff. I will just say I wish Reyna had played a little bit more, because I think Gio Reyna is sick. I'm not saying he should have started, but I would have loved to see him get a lot more run. I'm not getting into all the stuff with all that and everything, because I love the Reynas. I love the Berhalters. They're Tar Heel, UVA. Those are our people. And Berhalter did an awesome job. I do wonder, like, do we maybe need a new, fresh look, or maybe we don't? Like you said, maybe the continuity thing. But I am excited about Jesse Marsch too. I think both he and Berhalter have that perfect MLS played internationally, but like have coached internationally, but also really understand the MLS system and are American born. And we keep coming back to this thing of like not having a foreign coach, but like I rooted for Klinsmann to be the coach more than anything, but him not having Donovan on the team, I mean, that was the worst mistake of all time. I mean, that was just ridiculous. And Julian Green, I mean, anybody even know who that guy is anymore? I mean, again, I'm sure he's a great guy, but like Landon Donovan's the best player of all time in America. But anyway, I don't know, Marsch and Berhalter, and man, you get excited about Thierry Henry or Vieira, but like there's something about the American athlete that's just unique. And so I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I hope they make a decision quickly, because World Cup is 1,000 days away. So
yeah, we got to get going. Just one or two more quick before we hop into the fun rapid fire question. I'm curious, what was the coolest or most intense environment you ever played in the MLS? What was like your favorite stadium to play in, or your least favorite stadium, or least or favorite team to play against?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, it was probably the Portland Timbers, and I know that's probably the expected answer, but I've never seen anything like it, that their fans were in their seats before the bus got to the stadium. So we had to walk across the field with the entire fan base yelling and screaming at us. And I mean, I just will never forget, the atmosphere and the energy and just the noise of that stadium during that game. And I actually ended up coming off the bench in one of my few appearances and thought I played pretty well, but then got laid into by the coach afterwards. So it was just one of those memorable games that I don't think I'll ever forget.
That's all. Yeah, man, that's on my bucket list of places to go. Amongst, God, there's so many cool ones now. I want to, Minnesota and Austin FC and Nashville and St. Louis, but no, Portland has got to be way high up there. Sporting Kansas City is supposed to be great too.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, we're going to dive into the fun rapid fire questions. I hope you have fun with these.
All right.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, the favorite, Messi or Ronaldo? Who you got?
Messi.
Right
No
on.
question.
Right on.
And story there, I've actually trained with Messi.
Oh my God.
When we were in Houston, Argentina was playing a friendly against Bolivia the night before, and they played their second team in the game, and they asked to use our facility the next day for the first team to train, which included Messi, Di Maria, Aguero, Otamendi, all the starters. And they needed 5 more players to come complete their small-sided game, and so I got picked. And
Dude,
I will never forget just like shaking how nervous I was to be on that field, but it was just such a blast. And
oh
so
my God.
from then, I've always been a Messi fan, always will be, but that just was icing on the cake for me.
Well, I mean, were they just sick, or like were they nice? Like, did you get to interact with them at all?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, most of them don't speak English, but the quality of play on that field was just unmatched to anything I've ever seen. It's like the pace, the decision making, the movement off the ball. It was fun to match yourself up against that and just realize how, much of a gap there still exists between what great looks like and what we think good looks like in this country.
Well, whatever else you do in this life, you did that, and that, I mean, holy smokes, I'm not sure we're going to have anyone on here ever that's done that. So that's a topper of all toppers. Messi or Maradona?
Just because I'm closer in age to Messi, I'm going to say Messi.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, that's again, that's probably the right answer. For me, though, Maradona was like my guy. He was like, when I was 10, I was like, dude, this guy is a rock star. And he was little, and like, I was kind of short, and so he could, his swagger. I always have a sweet spot for Maradona, but Messi's probably had the more impressive career. Ronaldo or Ronaldo, as in Cristiano versus El Fenomeno?
The latter, El Fenomeno, for me.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
I hear you, brother.
Ultimate goal scorer.
I love it. All right, the tough one. Again, I always hate asking this because I love these guys both so much, but it's fun to ask it. Donovan or Dempsey?
They're so different. I'm going to go with Dempsey. Back to your swagger comment. I don't think anybody in U.S. soccer history has had that much swagger. He's the ultimate competitor.
Yeah, I mean, he just crushed it in the EPL for so long and was really, he played at the highest. Donovan, he was kind of Captain America and chosen to carry the banner for the MLS. And when he did have that spell at Everton, he was unreal. So I think he could have been as good, maybe even better than Dempsey. But Dempsey did do it at that level. But again, we're talking about two American heroes and two of my favorite players of all time. Who's your favorite player of all time?
Sorry.
You're good.
I'm going with favorite player of all time is definitely Messi.
Right on.
By far, the 2011 Barcelona team was my team that I, will never forget. One, because we won the national championship that year as well, but their just ball movement, the players they had on the field, they won the treble. That was kind of my favorite team to watch growing up.
Yeah. Plus, you just mentioned you played with them, so I mean, how could you not say that? Sticking with the theme of the show, I know you're an attacker, but who's your favorite center mid of all time?
It's a good question. I would say Iniesta.
Nice.
I don't think there are many players I've ever seen who just had that level of soccer IQ and who can move off the ball and connect and combine with people as efficiently as he did. So he was one of my favorite players to watch growing up.
I know Zach loves that answer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good choice.
Zach's
Iniesta.
I think he's De Bruyne's number one, and then Iniesta is two.
Yeah, absolutely. And even your Jesse Marsh shout out I liked earlier. So we're right on par, man.
Like it, Zach.
That's a good one.
I liked you.
That's a good one. Who's the best player you ever played with or against? Well, you just.
Well, no, I won't. Somebody who has been on my team,
Mm-hmm.
probably DeMarcus Beasley. I'll never forget walking in the locker room the first day and just getting starstruck when I walked by his locker because his poster was on my wall as a little kid.
Yeah.
But I've never played with somebody who sees the game that he does, and I swear he has like photographic memory because we were in preseason my rookie year, and he pulled me aside afterwards and was like, "Do you remember this play where ball was over here? You made this run. I was over here. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he was on the complete opposite side of the field as a left back, and I was a right mid. And his ability to just see the field from an omniscient kind of broad perspective is unique.
Yeah, that's so great. And Grant had the same answer, actually. That's so cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Dempsey, Donovan, Beasley, those are my top three of all time for Americans. And man, he was so good. That's such an interesting story. You say it's almost like LeBron. They say one of the reasons why he's so good is he can remember defensive plays of other teams like 10 years ago. That's interesting. I mean, that's just interesting perspective. People probably didn't know that about DeMarcus Beasley, aside from the fact that he was the quickest player of all time. And just, God, what a beast. Great answer. All right, my favorite one. Time to name your perfect 11. Combining from any era. Let's hear it.
Okay. I'm going to start goalie. And before I start, I'm going 4-3-3.
Okay.
Goalie would be Iker Casillas.
Right on.
From right to left across the back, I'd go Philip Lahm, Carlos Puyol, Franz Beckenbauer, and then Marcelo.
Right on.
Even though he's a Real Madrid player, but that's okay. In the middle, go with Zinedine Zidane, Johan Cruyff, and my man Iniesta.
Nice.
And then across the top, this was really hard, but right to left, going Maradona, Pele, Messi.
Awesome. That's pretty killer. I love it. And then the last question is, what's your favorite jersey of all time?
Does it have to be a club or can it be country?
Absolutely. It can be country. It can be anything.
If it can be country, Croatia, 100%.
Nice. Love
Can't
it.
beat this checkered flag.
Yep. I actually got one over here. Yeah, I got the Suker Croatia jersey. No, that's great. All right, my man. Rob, I really, really appreciate it. Can't thank you enough for joining. Hope you enjoyed it. We really enjoyed it. You had some incredible stories. I do have two guests that want to come pop their head in real quick and just say hey real quick.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
All right. On the count of three, say 1, 2, 3, go Cougars. 1, 2, 3.
Go Cougars.
Love it. Go Cougars.
All right. All right, man. Well, thanks so much, Rob. Thank you so much for joining, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt.